Why did the baby strawberry cry?
I don't know. Why did the baby strawberry cry?
Because his mum was in a jam.
Did you know that some animal mothers eat their young?
Whoa.
The Fool's Journey. Having used his intuition to guide his path, the fool now finds himself in a lush garden surrounded with ripe, swaying wheat. In the middle of the scene sits a rather fruity-looking sort, if you don't mind my saying so. Flaw.
Hello, and welcome to my earthly paradise.
Hello.
I am the Empress, but you could call me your archetypal mother. I represent all things connected to fertility, sensuality, and nurturing.
Right. Should I call you Mum?
You can call me whatever you like, dear. You've arrived at this place to master your creativity and appreciate the wonders of nature. Just look around. The world is full to the brim with magic. If only people could just pay attention to it. Take you.
Who? Me?
No, I'm talking to the dog. Of course you. You are a child of the world, full of ideas and potential. But you must nurture those ideas if you want to see them come to fruition. Planting the seeds of success is not enough alone. You have to water and take care of them so you can watch them grow into a magnificent reality. Pay attention to your emotions, fool. They might not tell you what you want to hear, but they will always tell you what you need to hear. Now go forth into the world and continue your journey with enchantment and sensuality.
Oh, Mum, can't I stay a bit longer?
No, you must complete your destiny. Besides, I've got a hot date.
Ooh.
Ooh, indeed. I'm off to find some clean underpants. To be continued.
Welcome back to Kippy's Quest and Tarot School. This week we're looking at the Empress, who is considered to be the archetypal mother of the major arcana. According to Arthur Edward Waite's brief explanation in his Key to the Tarot, the Empress represents fruitfulness, action, initiative, length of days, the unknown, clandestine, also difficulty, doubt, ignorance.
Right, so basically everything then.
Once again, we can see that if we want Waite's real feelings toward the card, we're going to need to go back and read his full summary, in which he describes the Empress as the fruitful mother of thousands. In earlier cards, we can see a much simpler depiction of the Empress, generally sat on a throne holding a shield emblazoned with an eagle, the heraldic symbol of the Holy Roman Empire. However, Pamela Coleman Smith chose to go in a very different direction for this card.
And who exactly is this talented artist of whom you speak?
A brief history of Pamela Coleman Smith.
Pamela Coleman Smith, also known as Pixie, was a British artist, writer and occultist. Smith illustrated 20 books, wrote 2 more, edited 2 magazines and designed posters for the suffrage movement and the Red Cross during World War I. She worked with many writers, including Bram Stoker and William Butler Yeats, and it was Yeats who introduced Smith to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Here she met Arthur Edward Waite, who in 1909 commissioned Smith to illustrate his new tarot, what would eventually become the Rider Waite deck. Incredibly, Smith managed to create 78 individual pieces of art in 6 months, including the full minor arcana. Pixie is believed to be solely responsible for the concepts and design of the 56 minor arcana cards, and can be largely credited with the success of what would become the most famous tarot deck in history. Due to this, many quite rightly refer to it as the Rider Waite Smith deck. And as we can see, Pixie chose to illustrate the Empress as a much more relaxed figure.
Oh yes, chilled out on a chaise lounge is the best way to go.
She sits surrounded by nature and vegetation, bringing to mind the idea of Mother Nature. This is in stark contrast to the Emperor, who is considered the father archetype of the tarot and is seen sitting amongst cold, bare mountains. Rachel Pollack explains this contrast. Because our mothers give us life and feed and shelter us, we tend to see them as love and mercy. But the father, especially in more traditional times when the sex roles were stricter, remained more remote and a figure of severity. Obviously things have changed somewhat since the Rider Waite deck came out in 1910, and the idea of a strict and authoritarian father probably seems ridiculous in a lot of modern households. Indeed, it can be just as easily one person who fulfills both roles. This is why it's important not to get bogged down in arguments about men and women when it comes to the tarot. At the end of the day, these are aspects of everyone's personality. Of course, men can be very caring and nurturing, while women can be authoritarian and strict.
Oh yes, you can't beat a bit of discipline.
In fact, one of the goals of the occult journey of self-discovery is to bring these different aspects of ourselves into balance. But that's not the only reason for all the flora and greenery playing such an important role in the card. In front of the Empress we see a field of ripening corn, supporting Waite's claim that she is above all things universal fecundity. This reminds us that the card also symbolises sex and sensuality, which is made clear on the shield lying next to the Empress, where we see the sign of Venus, who along with her Greek counterpart Aphrodite were worshipped as the embodiment of love and sensuality. According to the Encyclopaedia Britannica, in myth and legend she was famous for her romantic intrigues and affairs with both gods and mortals.
Sounds like she was anybody's. Bit like my auntie after a few sherries.
Many believe that the Empress is pregnant in this illustration. I can't really see it myself, but it is a particularly flowing gown, so I'm happy to go along with that. It is in this sense that the Empress is also associated with creativity. I guess that conception leading to birth is probably the ultimate act of creation. Some comment has been made on the contrast between the Empress and the High Priestess, who precedes this card. Paul Foster Case notes that Key 3's title, the Empress, means literally she who sets in order. She's the feminine ruling power. Her name contrasts with the High Priestess, which indicates the cold virginity of a cloistered devotee of the gods. In like manner, mythology contrasts the warm mother goddess Venus with Diana, virgin goddess of the moon. On her head she wears a crown of 12 stars and a necklace of pearls. The stars are said to represent the zodiac, while the pearls correspond to the planets of the solar system. Rachel Pollack says, in short, she wears the universe as her jewellery, further illustrating the Empress as the
goddess of the heavens and the earth. Sorry, I was getting carried away.
You can carry me away if you like.
Monty, I'm trying to teach people about the cards, not pimp them out. Getting back to the subject, the stars on her head are all six-pointed. Not only does this refer to the Star of David, but also to the alchemical symbols for the elements. This hints towards the Empress being an archetype of the physical realms. The waterfall in the background alludes not only to change and the transience of life, but also to the flowing of feelings, with water corresponding to emotions in the tarot, and in the wider world of magic. This also implies some of the more negative aspects of the card. For example, the difficulty and ignorance that Waite mentions. Sometimes an overemphasis on emotions and sensation can bring about irresponsible behaviour and a tendency to avoid anything that doesn't bring instant gratification. The boring day-to-day stuff that we have to do in order to survive. Keeping calm and carrying on is definitely not what this card is about. In the pictorial key to the tarot, Waite says that she is not Regina Coeli, but she's still Refugium Peccatorum. I think Arthur Edward Waite may have had a slightly better education in terms of Latin than I did. But I've got the internet and he didn't, so who's laughing now? Regina Coeli refers to the Queen of Heaven, while Refugium Peccatorum translates to the refuge of sinners. This is another reference to the merciful aspect of divinity.
But what does it all mean?
In readings, the appearance of the Empress is often thought to be telling us to consider the passionate, emotional and sensual experience of life. It can also be a sign that we should think about approaching something in a creative way, whether a new project or just bringing our creativity into something happening right now. Reversed, the Empress can mean that we're repressing some of those desires and attempting to cut ourselves off from sensuality. However, it can also be a symbol of lucidity and practicality, like the ability to think clearly without having our judgment clouded by the desire for pleasure. In some ways, the Empress and the High Priestess are almost interchangeable when it comes to reversals. As noted by Rachel Pollack, just as the High Priestess upside down added the missing element of involvement, so the Empress reversed can mean a new intellectual awareness, especially the solving of some complicated emotional problem by calmly thinking it through.
Correspondence Corner!
The Empress sits near the top of the Tree of Life on the path between Hokmah and Binah. This is the bridge between wisdom and understanding. She is represented by the Hebrew letter Dalet, which means door. Her musical note is F sharp. Her corresponding herb is Dong Quai, and her planet, of course, is Venus.
The big takeaway from this card is the overarching themes of sensuality, passion and nurturing. Whatever your situation, this card could be telling you to open up that side of yourself and live the life of pleasure.
It certainly is. What else is there?
Thank you for joining us once again on Kippy's Quest. May the coming days bring you passion, creativity, and the heartfelt desire to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.